some Girl Scouts here that are going to get a merit badge, yeah? Or at least you're down here to earn one. But we want to thank you for coming down, and we've got all right. Joe, come on up. Uh, every year, or is this 15? 15 years, we have done a National Homeless Persons Memorial Day. And Joe Stevens has been there with us and led it, and we do it up at the Capitol on the longest night of the year, December 21st. But Joe, I'd like to have you say a couple of words and let everybody know what we're doing.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been an honor to do this with you all these years. We're really going to miss you. We hope the tradition will continue each year on December 21st. As the mayor said, we meet at the state capitol at 5:30 p.m. You're all invited. It's an outdoor event, so dress warmly. And we remember people that died homeless here in Iowa. This year we have 34 names we'll be reading so far, and we have yet to hear back from two of the larger shelters in the area, Central Iowa Shelter and Hope Ministries will be getting back to us, I think, tomorrow with their names. So it's going to be a large number of names this year because they always have a number themselves that they provide. So we all work together to do this, and it's going to be happening at the state capitol. And it's important to remember people that died homeless. Often they don't have a memorial. Many times their family members and friends don't even know they're gone. So we've been doing this for 15 years. It's been an honor, and thank you, Mayor, for your service all these years and for doing this with us each year.
Well, and thanks to everybody that gets out and does everything we can do for the homeless. Our goal is to end homelessness, get people in shelter, get them to a housing first model, and we're trying to look at all the different models that there are around the country and hopefully help those that really need the help and the support. So our proclamation reads as follows. The winter poses extreme hardship and unsheltered and inadequate housed low-income men, women, and children in Des Moines. And whereas the spirit of the holiday season of giving provides an opportunity for affirmation and renewal regarding the commitment to end homelessness. And whereas December 21st has been designated National Homeless Persons Memorial Day by the National Coalition for the Homeless and the National Healthcare for the Homeless Council, which is recognized by cities nationwide. And in this season of generosity and sharing, citizens of Des Moines are encouraged to commit themselves to promoting compassion and concern for all brothers and sisters, and especially those who are poor and homeless. And whereas in remembering those who have died on the streets, the cause of ending homelessness is kept urgent as the city's collective commitment to preventing such deaths in the future. Now, therefore, I, T.M. Franklin County, on behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim December 21st, 2023 as National Homeless Persons Memorial Day in recognition of the people who have died homeless in and around Des Moines. We hereby ask all citizens to take a moment of silence in remembering and encourage our citizens to support all local efforts to eliminate homelessness in our community. Joe, thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you. I'm going to give Joe this proclamation and we'll. You got it? Okay. All right, we'll start a council meeting shortly.
Okay, we have added this on behalf of Mayor County. A resolution recognizing the contributions and accomplishments of Mayor T.M. Franklin County on behalf of the city of Des Moines and its residents. Whereas T.M. Franklin County has dedicated nearly 4 decades of his life to serving the people of Des Moines, and whereas Mayor County was elected as mayor of Des Moines in 2003, after previously service as an at-large member of the council, on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and with the Downtown Des Moines, Inc. And whereas Mayor County has led Des Moines through many historical events, such as natural disasters, a global pandemic, and economic hardship, and whereas Mayor County will be remembered as the driving force behind the redevelopment and revitalization of downtown Des Moines into the bustling hub of living, working, and playing it is today. And whereas Mayor County was a leader for the Community Character Plan, which brought about a new level of planning and input from residents, and whereas Mayor County has long been a voice for local government, has put significant effort towards raising the profile of the city issues at the state, federal, and international levels, creating strong relationships with other policymakers across the country that in turn benefited the residents of Des Moines. And whereas Mayor County has taken his leadership beyond the city as a trustee for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, as global president of ICLEI Local Governments for Sustainability, and U.S. Presidents of Mayors for Peace. And whereas Mayor County has directed the city to become a national leader in climate mitigation and adaptation policy, working to pass ambitious climate goals and adapt DSM and the city's most comprehensive climate action plan. And whereas Mayor County has been the longest serving mayor in Des Moines history and will leave a legacy of compassion, diplomacy, humanity, and stewardship because he has always kept the residents and the resiliency of the city of Des Moines at the forefront of his service. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Des Moines, Iowa, that T.M. Franklin County is hereby recognized by the City Council for his historical years of service and leadership to the city and to its residents, and is recognized in particular for his compassion, diplomacy, and humanity. And be it further resolved that T.M. Franklin County will be appointed as the City of Des Moines Climate Ambassador effective January 8th, 2024, and will serve as the city's liaison for all climate adaptation, mitigation, resiliency policy until January 2027. Therefore, congratulations, Frank, and thank you. And on behalf
Did I miss anybody over here?
And we have a small gift for you in recognition of your service to Des Moines and to the residents that you've served for decades.
Yeah.
So if you would like to say a word, right here.
You know, quite frankly, I have no idea what to say. I'm honored. I'm humbled. This is really the culmination of working with all of our citizens. You know, people can say that this individual or that individual got this done, but for me, it's because of all the citizens and all the businesses and all of us coming together talking about what Des Moines needs, where we need to go to make Des Moines more exciting, more inviting, a place that people want to live, they want to work, they want to have a business, start a business, and hopefully their next generation wants to stay here and follow those same footsteps. The foundation that we have laid hopefully will encourage these young people right here to celebrate and lead us 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. And I want to thank my family for coming down here and witnessing this, and appreciate all your help, support, and love. Thank you.
We'll open it up.
He's opening.
You're turned this way because
Okay.
you need a stage
Is,
director.
is there something in here that I should be worried about? Is there a puppy going to pop out?
Here, let me hold that. You,
All right.
it lifts up. So it's a,
It's
Yeah.
a box to put more stuff in. Tina,
so look around the side on each side.
Des Moines mayor, 2 decades of awesomeness, longest service. Thank you so much, you guys.
I think the council would all like to share a quick note. I get to speak Wednesday, so I'll just take a quick second. If you're a young person like me and much of your life is in front of you, there's a lesson for you from Frank County, and that is the nice guys always finish first. Sometimes it takes a while, but Frank County is one of the kindest men in this town, in this state, in this country. And I think everybody that's worked with him would say the same. We don't always agree on everything, but the remarkable way in which he's treated other people is been life-changing for me and my family and for the city of Des Moines. I'd say one other thing about his work as the mayor. I really believe in 25 and 50 years, on the great issues of the day, we're going to look back and say, Mayor County was right. Sometimes he was right because he led us all to the right spot. Sometimes he was right because he felt so strongly we were wrong, he was at the wrong end of a 6-1 vote. But I think in decades and generations, we're going to look back and say, he was right. And if we always made the decisions he made, we'd have a really profoundly cool and alive city. So thank you for your service. I get more at you Wednesday.
Yeah, all right.
Would just like to say that, Frank, it's been an honor to work with you and to be on council with you. Thank you so much for making our city what it is. And I'm proud to say that I worked on your very first campaign in 2004.
And I want to thank her for it.
I made phone calls. I think I wrote postcards. So as a neighborhood leader, we were out there pulling. Thank you.
My thanks too, and only hope to be able to follow in the footsteps and move the city forward in the way that you moved over the 20 years. So appreciate your friendship. We'll see you we all go to the same church, so we kind of sit in the same pew sometimes. But again, thank you for all your leadership and your service to the city.
I got to work with the mayor when we were church youth advisors and went from Wednesday nights being the longest nights of the week to Monday nights. But, you know, sometimes his quiet protests are pretty dang interesting. Like he votes no on every cigarette sale renewal. And he's been quietly working with other mayors on gun control. There are just some interesting topics that he doesn't put the spotlight on himself. He just keeps moving forward. So we appreciate all that. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to just thank you for your mentorship. We always don't agree, but we always come to a consensus, and I've learned so much from you that I will never forget. Your steadiness through crises that I thought we would never get through, and you were always there, and you were always a steady hand and a reasonable voice, and I just would love to thank you for that. And there's a lot of love in this town for you, and you'll never, ever get to go away. You always got to be that steady voice for us, so thank you.
Mayor, I want to thank you for one thing in particular, where your leadership has made a difference in Des Moines, has laid a foundation, and has made a difference throughout the world. And that is the work that you've done on climate. I think climate change is the defining issue of our time. As Councilmember Coleman said, I think it's one of those things where people will look back, and the fact that you were an early advocate and an early leader will be much appreciated and a big part of your legacy. And it's the part of your legacy that I look forward to continuing to work on. I'm proud that we passed ADAPT DSM under your leadership, and that provides a roadmap for our climate work going forward. And that's part of how I plan to honor your legacy. It's not just in the things we'll say over the next few days, but it's what we will do in the coming years to implement ADAPT DSM and to actually take meaningful local action to cement Des Moines' leadership as a leader on local climate solutions.
We move forward on a council meeting? All right. We were looking forward to keeping you all here for about 4 or 5 hours tonight, and we just keep celebrating.
Yes,
But
we could.
let's get our work done. Thank you all. Well, we want to welcome everybody to the December 18th Des Moines City Council meeting. And we've read our proclamations, and I think it's time to begin our meeting. I'll call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask the clerk to please take roll.
County,
Here.
Boson,
Here.
Voss. Here. Coleman. Here. Westergaard. Here. Mandelbaum.
Here.
Gatto.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and or as amended.
Move.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. I think there's no amendments. Guess we're going to not do a voice vote tonight. Item passes unanimously. Item 3 is approving the consent agenda. Tonight, those are items 3 through 49. I will note that item 31, Councilmember Coleman wishes to speak, and item 38I, Councilmembers Westergaard and Gatto both vote no.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Ask everyone to vote on this one.
7 yes.
All right, let's move straight to item 50, I think. Item 50 is our first hearing item. This evening, on the hearing items, for the previously scheduled 9 hearings this evening, we have 1 zoning hearing, which is number 51, 1 conveyance hearing, 1 plan amendment hearing, 1 design alternative hearing, 4 public improvement authorization hearings, and 1 zoning hearing that the applicant has requested to be continued to the January 8th, 2024 council meeting. As a reminder, for the zoning item this evening, which again is item 51, we will hear from the parties in interest first. Those are either the applicant or those people living within 250 feet that have received a notice and of the rezoning, and we'll ask them to speak. And after all those parties in interest have commented, we'll open it up for any member of the public to make germane comments. to aid in recognizing the parties in interest. We'll ask all of them to come up first. And please, those of you who are not parties in interest, don't step up because that will be being a little disruptive, and we're not going to allow you to not only speak there, but we're going to have to, by order, not recognize you for the remainder of the meeting. For the zoning item, and after all the parties in interest have been called upon, the general public is going to be asked to make germane comments of not to exceed 1 minute per person for a maximum of 7 minutes per hearing item, unless the hearing is ended sooner for failure to make germane comments or public comments just end. For the design alternative hearings, the applicant will have up to 5 minutes to present its request, and the general public will be called upon for germane public comments at not to exceed 1 minute per person to a maximum of 5 minutes for the public comment. For the other hearings this evening, any interested person may make germane comments at not to exceed 1 minute, and we're going to maximum of 5 minutes per hearing unless the hearing is ended for the failure again to make germane comments or the public comments have just ended. As a reminder, on the public improvement hearings, only the comments as to the plans, the specifications, the form of the documents, and the engineer's estimate and low bidder designation will be considered germane. All other comments will be considered not germane. Let's go ahead and move ahead. Our first item this evening is item number 50 on the conveyance of a vacated north-south alley right-of-way located east of and adjoining 1261 Dixon Street to Cortez R. Nichols and Denise C. Nichols for $25. Let's open it up and ask the general public, does anybody have any comment to be made on this conveyance? Seeing none, council?
Seeing none.
Been moved and seconded. Ask everybody to vote.
7 yes.
Item 51 is on a request from 1350 LLC. Jake Sparks is the officer to amend the Plan DSM creating our tomorrow comprehensive plan to revise the future land use classification from low medium density residential to neighborhood mixed use and to rezone 1350 East Washington Avenue from NX2 neighborhood mixed district to MX1 mixed use district to allow the renovation and reuse of the existing building for a mix of uses such as office space, a studio, a cafe, and an urban garden. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above. B is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by the applicant and requires 6 votes. First is either the applicant. Is the applicant in the house? Want to make any comment? Are there any parties in interest, those within that 250 feet, that would like to make comment on this?
Hello, my name is Kelly Leiden. I live at 1622 York Street, and I am very excited to see this project move forward. It's going to be a great asset to our neighborhood. It's also addressing a critical need in our neighborhood, which is a food desert. So we're very excited to have this project move forward, and we thank you both to the city staff and to the city council for this consideration of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other folks want to make any germane comments regarding this? Open up for the general public.
Hey y'all, Denver Foot, they, them. I live in the Drake neighborhood. I want to say that this building is an old, beautiful brick building, and we should really renovate this and put it into use in our communities, especially because this is on the edge of Union Park where there is a food desert and is like more of a low-income, diverse community. And I believe that this really aligns with the ADAPT DSM that is just got passed.
All right, anyone else? If there's any other speakers, we'll ask you to come over now and kind of line up so we have some idea what we got here. looks like you're the last one. Thank you.
Hi, Kirsten Delagardelle, 2334 York Street. I serve on the board for the Greenleaf Center that's partnering with the development group that's working on this, and we're really excited. We're neighbors of this. I was a student of Grandview, and we're very excited about your consideration, and we hope that we can welcome you all to a grand opening very shortly to see what we're up to. We're excited just to have a place for our community to gather. Currently, we don't have a ton of spaces like that, especially free spaces in our area, so we're excited to add this to that. So,
All
thank
right.
you.
All right, council, any thoughts?
With that, I'll move item 51A and B.
Second.
51A and B has been moved and seconded.
7 yes.
Item 52 is on a request from WCMRP Des Moines Center, LLC. Michelle Scott is the officer for review and approval of a second amendment to the Southdale PUD conceptual plan located at 4900 Southeast 14th Street to allow the expansion of a retail use to include multiple outdoor storage and display areas and to continue to the January 8, 2024 council meeting.
Move approval.
Move to continue.
Move to continue.
Been moved to continue and moved and seconded.
7 yes.
Item 53 is on the appeal of Bradley and Belinda McAninch, the owner, on a denial of Type 2 design alternatives for a site plan on property located at 4700 Southeast 14th Street to allow a waiver of Priority 1 sidewalk installation along East Harold Avenue and a waiver of a building transparency requirement on the primary facade. A is the Type 2 design alternative number 1, sidewalk installation. Choose one of the options below. 1 is to deny the sidewalk installation Type 2 design alternative, or 2, to approve the sidewalk installation Type 2 design alternative. B is a Type 2 design alternative number 2, which is regarding the primary facade transparency. Again, choose one option below. 1 is to deny the primary facade transparency design 2 design alternative, or 2, to approve the primary facade transparency Type 2 design alternative. Is the applicant here?
He is, Your Honor. If anyone has any questions, I can probably handle most of the questions unless council has a question.
All right. So the applicant is not going to speak. You're going to speak for him?
If needed.
Okay.
I didn't know if anyone in the crowd wants to speak.
The applicant apparently is not going to speak, so we're going to ask now, are there any comments from the general public regarding this request? Seeing none? Councilmember Gatto?
Absolutely, Your Honor. For those that don't know, this building was destroyed by arson. Someone had broken in through the window and kicked in the window and lit it on fire. It's been in business on the same corner, I believe, for close to 40 years. So it was very unfortunate. We do have an opportunity, though, to upgrade, and the design is definitely an upgrade. I know it doesn't meet all the design requirements as far as transparency and things like that. So and maybe city legal, I can take these one by one because I think my recommendation is going to be different on 2 of these. So I would deny, this is a priority 1 sidewalk. The only other property on Harold Street is Polk County owns that. I believe they're going to fill that sidewalk in. So I would like to see, and I've talked to the applicant and they've agreed to, there is going to be some challenges around the utility poles, but as we've put other sidewalks in, we put them around utility poles. We put them next to the curb like we did on Fleur Drive. So However, he can get that in without moving the utility poles. I believe staff would be okay with that. We discussed that. So the first one, I would move 53A1 to deny the sidewalk installation. So do we vote on that separately, or?
That would probably be best.
Okay, so I will move 53A1 to deny his design alternative and require them to put the sidewalk in and to fill in the priority 1 gap.
Second. Someone, Scott, you want?
I'll just say I appreciate when we stick to our policy. I think the priority 1 sidewalks, it's an important policy. I'm glad we did it. I think it makes a difference for folks navigating our community safely, and I think it's important to stick to that policy, so I'm glad we're doing that here.
Thanks, Josh.
Been moved and seconded.
7 yes.
Okay, then the other design alternative, the transparency issue. So the reason we're in this position, like I said earlier, was the building was destroyed by arson, kicked in a window, and went in and lit the place on fire. So we are going to have some windows up above. So I would move 53B2 and allow the alternative not to have the windows at the level that staff is asking for and have them up higher so people can't break in and do the same thing again. So I will move 53B2.
A second.
I just have a question on that.
Okay.
The P&Z asked that the applicant work with staff on maybe a compromise on this. Did that happen?
We tried.
It just didn't get resolved.
It did not.
Six yes, 1 no. Motion passes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, let's move to item 54. Item 54 is on a substantial amendments to the 2022 and 2023 annual action plans under the 2020-2024 consolidated plan, updating the service area of the infrastructure and public facilities activity and the reallocation of public service funding. Council Communication number 23-549. Any comments from the general public regarding this amendment to our annual action plan?
None, Your Honor. I'll move 54.
A second.
Been moved and seconded.
7 yes.
Item 55. Item 55's on the 2nd Avenue reconstruction from University to Des Moines River. The resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder is Synergy Contracting LLC. Jesse Rognes is the president. $17,148,218.80. This item was continued from the December 4th council meeting. Council Communication number 23-557. A is the approval of the contract and the bond. Let's open it up quickly and see if the general public has any comments regarding this 2nd Avenue reconstruction. All right, seeing none. Any council comments?
Mayor, if I could, first off, council, 2 weeks ago, I asked for a chance to table this, to continue it and bring it up tonight. I appreciate that. I want to specifically thank the engineering department that answered a number of questions, and I think all of you got the same communication I got. I had asked a bunch of questions. I'll be honest with you, as much as I appreciate all the information, and there's much of it that makes sense to me, overall, I really feel that while Ward 1 was without a council person, we lost the chance to argue for some amenities and add-ons, like burying the cables and concrete instead of asphalt and some things that I wish were in there. And I'm just disappointed that this is one of those issues that I think, we just didn't have time to catch up on. The bids were already in when I got sworn in, and it's unfortunate and frustrating. I've really been perplexed about how to deal with it, because the street project is really, really important, and it's generally designed in a good way. And I appreciate, going back to my previous time on the council, we were arguing about how many lanes and how to make the intersections match up better for the businesses that are down there and the residents. And I think the city did a good job on that. So I think Carl has some comments, and Linda might. I think we all have a little bit different view on this, but I appreciate the time that you gave so I could study it a little bit more. I do feel like I failed in trying to get the things done at the last second that some of the constituents and businesses wanted us to get done.
Anybody else?
I just had a couple of questions, maybe for staff. I would just like to know what the change order history is of this contractor, and on the projects that they've worked on, are they getting them done on time?
So I'm asking city engineer to come forward.
I think it was an email.
And actually Jim Hoff might need to participate in this one as well.
I just think it'd be nice if
I know that
we could
Jim,
do it publicly. I mean, so we have it on record.
and I know that Synergy has performed well according to the engineers, but
Okay.
to your specific question, I would need to ask them.
Okay.
Waiting. I've got some, engineers here, so I'll wait till after.
Did you see? I didn't realize this came at 4.
All right, Mr. Engineer.
All right. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Steve Neighbor, City of Des Moines resident and City Engineer. Councilman Westergaard, you had posed some questions this afternoon about kind of a history of the change orders and their completion dates on recent projects. I prepared kind of a summary just to kind of go over some of these large projects that Synergy has completed, one being near West Side Sewer Separation Phase 4. The total number of change orders came in under the awarded contract amount by negative 0.94%. They came in under the contract. There was a reduction. There was some work that we thought was needed that was removed, such as 23 sanitary services. But then some of that was offset by some work that we added. Our Public Works Department found a sanitary sewer repair that was needed, and so we added that in the contract. So in general, that one came in under. They also completed the project on time by the July 15th, 2022 completion date. And so that's one example of about a $9 million contract of sewer work and road reconstruction. Fluor Drive reconstruction was the Phase 1 project. The award was $7.4 million with the change orders that came in at just over $8 million. However, the bulk of those change orders we added the sidewalk along Wakanda. Obviously, that would be affect anyone who was constructing that project. We also added over $200,000 worth of irrigation work. And so again, this was added scope by us as a city. And so regardless of who the construction contractor was, that work would have been added. And so again, that one came, if you take those giant items, that comes well within the norm of a project for change orders. And even the change orders that we had were due to unforeseen conditions that would be experienced by any contractor. That was replacing unsuitable material with granular backfill. They finished the project on October 16, 2020, which was before the completion date of November 28, 2020. And again, that was roughly an $8 million project, so a very large road reconstruction and utility project. Western Ingersoll Phase 2 was about a $6.7 million contract. It came in about 6.8, so it did come in 2% over the contract amount. But again, there were 3 change orders totaling $139,000. Again, 2% is typically we would expect a project of that size to be in that 4 to 6% range of change orders. This one came in at 2, and really it was because we added, we found some storm sewer that needed to be repaired, some existing storm sewer pipe, and we also replaced some what's considered Orangeburg. It's an old service pipe for sewer that we found to replace. So again, these were conditions that were put upon us that were unforeseen at the time of bidding, and so. And again, this one was completed in June of this year within the contract time. So those are 3 of the most recent project synergy completed, all within contract time and all, I would say even well below what we would experience from a change order standpoint.
So, Steve, we're on Ingersoll project. Did they find some trolley lines that they weren't expecting to find also?
That correct, yep. And I apologize, I didn't mention that was on the Western Ingersoll Phase 2. They found trolley lines within the pavement structure, and so they had to remove those to rebuild the pavement and put the sewer in. So, yep. Yep, correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I appreciate the questions that Councilmember Westergaard is asking. I'm curious just how this fits in terms of defining responsible. And I think there was some back and forth. Part of why Councilmember Coleman continued this item was OSHA violations that this contractor's had. And I think part of what was pointed out is that there are a number of contractors that have these, and that their safety record was, I don't remember it was what standard, but there was a standard that we use. Do we use that to evaluate, to regularly evaluate the safety records of our contractors?
We do not. That we're very limited on what we can do it's basically the lowest responsible bidder per Chapter 26, and safety record and diving into those is not something we evaluate. But Synergy was extremely responsive in providing all this information just at will, because they want to, they're a local contractor, they want to complete this.
But my question is how we evaluate responsible, because we can't evaluate that. It's undefined in the code, so we don't really have guidance from the state on what constitutes responsible. That's sort of up to us, and I think that was the point that Councilmember Westergaard was making in asking questions about change orders, about timeliness of completing projects. And I'm certainly interested in trying to develop a little bit more guidance or criteria in terms of what we will use. For example, we had a contractor who definitely was not on time on the Ingersoll project this year. In fact, we had to go and hire other contractors to get that completed before the weather changed. That, to me, would be an example that we would cite going forward as a contractor who didn't meet that responsible criteria. Would you agree that something like that would be sufficient to say, okay, that contractor is maybe not responsible?
So some of the items that we can look at for determining responsibility would be, one, the financial capability of doing the project. So can they get bonded? And then the other one would be project experience, or their experience. And so I would say that would be something that would be taken into consideration. Their past documented performance on a project could affect whether they are considered to be responsible. Obviously, in this case, this contractor, I'm deeming as responsible.
Right, I understand that, but part of this conversation is about how we approach this going forward.
Well, but I think that isn't that something that we ought to do on strategic planning, and as we look at stuff, rather than going after this on this particular deal, we've gotten, I think, a pretty good statement here. Well, are we going to debate all of our policies?
I agree, but this is the only time that I have a chance to understand or dig into something like this and to raise. I can't ask to put something on the agenda to put it on our strategic plan. I can talk about it as it relates to agenda items.
I can ask the manager right now, can you put it on agenda to discuss these kinds of issues?
If it's the mayor's desire,
It's my desire.
Your mayor.
Still the mayor. There you go.
But, and I do want to be cautionary, the chapter 26 is very clear on we cannot be pre-qualifying contractors. So that's why this is a difficult thing to kind of set parameters and what is a responsiveness, a responsible contractor
Right,
here.
but I mean, I think it's undefined in case law. Someone's going to need to be the one to challenge and to work to define this. And it's something that I'm interested in doing from a policy perspective, and I want to understand where our engineering department is at on some of these pieces. Now, I'd welcome a conversation going forward, because I think.
Well, we're going to look into policy and look in with the legal department to see what it is that we can do to be more specific about it and get you the answers that you need, rather than having a broader discussion regarding and turning out in the middle of a council meeting on a specific item here, which I think you've given us quite a bit of input on this particular bidder and awardee for this particular project. Mr. Coleman pointed out his concerns earlier, and I think got his answers, and I don't think right here's the time to.
Yeah, and we've had, and I would agree with Councilmember Amanda Bob. We have, I can think of definitely one that has performed jobs for us that I would consider not responsible whatsoever, and we have history of them being not responsible.
Well, so let's bring
Right.
that forward and
This
have a
isn't
broader discussion
history
with it and
of-
look at the policy and see what it is that we can do.
Right. This we don't have
Hopefully
a
not have
leg
that
to
kind of
stand
a
on.
bitter.
Right.
I would just
Award
ask
of
that
project.
we really get something scheduled, that it comes before a workshop, because we've been asking for this for some time, and we haven't
I would agree.
moved very far along with that. So I have to support Josh on this also, that I think we need to be looking at policy, and so I'm glad to see that you're directing the city manager to do that.
So,
Get her done soon.
on this item on the agenda, are we ready for a motion then?
I think we're waiting for a motion, yes.
I'd like to move 55 and 55A.
Second.
55A has been moved and seconded.
Five yes, 2 no, motion passes.
Takes us to item 56 on the Brook Park Spray Ground Resolution, approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file the bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder is Brothers Cleaning Corporation, doing business as Brothers Concrete. Joseto Valero is the president. $574,965.79. Council Communication number 23-563. A is approval of the contract and bond. Let's open it up to the general public and see if anybody has any comments regarding the Brook Park Spray Ground. Seeing none. Council, is there a motion?
I would be happy to make a motion to approve 56 and 56A. This is an exciting project, and I just want to do a shout out to the Parks and Rec Department, specifically Ben Page and his team that have worked so hard and have listened to the residents as they've expressed to them what they wanted to see in a park. So I'm happy to move that.
Second.
And Linda, I'll second what you said, because that's what we're here about, to listen to our citizens and try to meet their hopes and their dreams. And I think this is a great
It's
park
nice to have
improvement.
another spray ground.
7 yes.
Very good addition.
Item 57. Item 57 is on the Birdland Sports Complex improvements, a resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder is Caliber Concrete LLC. Jason Martin is the owner, $1,593,240. Council Communication Number 23-561. A is the approval of the contract and the bond. And let's quickly open up the general public and see if anyone has any comments regarding the plan specifications, form of contract documents, the engineer's estimate, or the low bidder designation for the Birdland Sports Complex. Seeing none.
Seeing none, I'm going to come back and echo the same thing that I just said about our Park and Recreation Department and Ben Page. I'm happy to move 57 and 57A, the Birdland Sports Complex. There's really some great things. We've already got a futsal court there. We're going to do additional tennis courts. It'll be a place for our residents from all over the city can easily come to and use the facilities. So I'm happy to move it.
A second.
57, 57A have been moved and seconded. Ask everybody to vote.
7 yes.
58 is on the Western Gateway Water Features, resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as Caliber Concrete LLC. Jason Martin is the owner, $852,270.75. Council Communication Number 23-562. A is approval of the contract and bond. And again, let's open it up and ask the general public if they have any comments regarding the plans, the specifications, the form of the documents, the engineer's estimate, or the low bidder designation for the Western Gateway Water Features. Anyone?
'58 and '58A.
Second.
Right. 58 and 58A been moved and seconded. Ask everybody to vote.
7 yes.
All right. Let's note that it is 5:48, and that completes the hearings. Let's quickly move back to item 31, which Councilmember Coleman wishes to speak. 31 is on a request from the City of Des Moines to amend Plan DSM, creating our Tomorrow Comprehensive Plan to revise the future land use classification from low-medium density residential to public, semi-public, and to rezone multiple parcels located in the vicinity of 1907 Clark Street from NX1 Neighborhood Mixed Use District to P2 Public Civic Institutional District to allow the construction of a new fire station, Des Moines Fire Department Station Number 4 building. And this will be on the agenda 1-8, I believe, of 24. Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, and I do intend to move and advance this if the council agrees. I did want to ask a question, or it may be more of a comment, and as I understand it, there is maybe a potential for this to still be going through the condemnation process or the appeal of such, and some things have changed since I was here in a previous life, but I don't think we rezone stuff if we don't have full control over it or the control. So if we got to the point where they were still in, are you ready?
I can explain that if you'd like. Go ahead.
Okay. Wow.
So actually, through the condemnation process, we do gain control of the property, and the discussions and the discussions on the price that we have to pay continues. And so we do have the control, as I understand it, of the property to make. I get that close.
Mr. Attorney, you want to
I
fill in
think
the gap?
the appeal that's continuing is relative to the price, not relative to the land ownership ultimately being vested in the city. But the item can be set for hearing. This is the first I'm hearing about this, but I'm happy to double check for council.
And I wanted to bring it up. It was last second. In fact, I texted Laura like a half hour beforehand saying I heard some things that concern me.
Sure, I'll be happy.
I do agree and don't want to get into anything about price here, but I do think there's also an issue about price. But if the condemnation itself is being appealed, my own preference would be we got 2 weeks to solve this without 2 or 3 levels of appeal and courts and district courts and appeal courts. It'd be really great to move forward with the project on the time frame we have rather than get delay. So that would be my input. And a little bird told me that we weren't that far away and it would be silly to go through a long process and delay the new fire station that, as we learned this morning, is pretty critical.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just in general, because we're going through the condemnation as the Southeast Connector, and so I've been experiencing a little bit of this through this process, and you and I've had this discussion, and I'm hoping that we can clean up the process through real estate, even when we purchase land. I mean, we've had a gentleman that he agreed to a portion of the property, and he's waited on a check through the process, as you know, for over 2 weeks, and probably closer to 3 weeks, because we've written different people's names on it. And then once we finally have given him a check, we haven't really said, here's your instructions, you need to go to Polk County, you need to figure this out, who you need to talk to. So I'm hoping that we can be a little bit better partner when we're purchasing things, and have somewhat of a process figured out, because right now I think it's up in the air, and I don't know if we just haven't did a lot of it in recent, this is a substantial amount of money, the one that I'm speaking of, and I mean, there's a substantial interest that you're losing out if it's 7 figures that we're paying someone for a portion of a property. And so I'm hoping that we can come up with a process that everyone understands, from real estate to financing to your office, the legal, and everyone is all on the same page. And these are the things that you need to do as we go through this. And I hope that you can direct your staff with the help of Jeff and figure it out. Yeah, along with this property too, because this is obviously part of it.
Yeah, well, and
this might be different.
Yeah, the one you're speaking to is even more complex, but message received. In fact, I've already started down that path with staff to organize those conversations. Oddly enough, in the 100 years more of City of Des Moines, whatever, I have not seen this issue rise to the level of the city manager's office. So this was also new to us and myself as well. But not that being said, it was pretty clear that there needs to be improvement in that process. Because this was a situation where 7 different parties might have some type of ownership rights, and that had to be resolved before the check could be properly written. So there is work to be done on that policy, and we'll get finance and legal and myself together to clean that up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
From both of you.
I think on the issue of 31, I'm comfortable moving it, and I appreciate your comments. Jeff, thank you for looking into it. I know we'll do the right and fair thing for all the parties and all the citizens of Des Moines. So,
second.
Been moved and seconded, and ask everybody to vote. Chris?
Oh, I'm sorry.
7 yes.
Yeah, I wondered.
All right. Now, we're going to go back to item 59. These are ordinances, first consideration. Item 59 is amending Chapter 114 of the Municipal Code regarding traffic regulation changes as follows. Council Communication number 23-565. A is a speed limit modification, Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway, Fleur Drive from Ingersoll Avenue to Army Post Road. B is a parking modification, 100 Locust Development, 2nd Avenue, Grand Avenue, and Locust Street. C is a code corrections, East Grand Avenue to the Des Moines River to East 4th Street. D is a speed limit modification, 48th Street from University Avenue to Hickman Road. E is a corner clearance parking restrictions, 1 McKinley Avenue and Southwest 18th Street. 2 is Hart Avenue and South Union Street. Any comments or any thoughts, council?
The McKinley Avenue, Southwest 18th, I didn't think we allow any parking on that. We on Southwest 18th, the corner clearance, or I didn't think any parking was allowed on that street.
Once again, I think it'd have to have engineering on that specific of a question.
And what are the speed limit modifications on A and D? So everybody in the general public knows.
Scroll down.
Yeah, we're 40 to 35.
A is lowering from 40 miles an hour to 35.
Is there a map there?
I'll move 59 A, B, C, D, E. Pursuant to Rule 42A, I'll waive the second, third reading.
A second.
Thank you for moving rule. I was asked to by
42A.
7 yes.
at least try.
Item 60 is amending Chapter 74 of the Municipal Code relating to Parks and Recreation Council Communication number 23-558. A is a final consideration of ordinance above the waivers requested by Ben Page, our Parks and Recreation Director. It requires 6 votes. B is the approval of the updated Des Moines Parks and Recreation rules. Council Communication number 23-559. Council, any comments?
Hearing none, I'd move 60, 60A, and 60B. And do we need a 42A on the B portion, or?
No, that's B.
Okay.
B.
Okay.
B, or I'm sorry.
A takes care of that. Okay. All right.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
7 yes.
All right. Takes us to our communications report from our citizens. And this evening, for those persons that are wishing to speak this evening under the public speaking item of the agenda, we will only be calling on those who have registered to speak. All speakers must comply with the rules regarding their names and their addresses, as they will not be recognized. And we ask each of our 10 speakers this evening will receive up to 2 minutes each to make their comments. Please keep your own time, because at the end of those 2 minutes, the clerk will announce time, and the speaker's mic will be turned off, and we'll immediately move to the next speaker. We want to hear from all of our residents, and we encourage all of our residents to be respectful of one another, even if you don't agree or you have a different opinion on an item. Let's go ahead and get started. Our first speaker this evening is Laurel Clinton. Is Laurel here? I don't see her either. Let's move on to our next speaker then. Garland Armstrong. I know he's here.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Garland Armstrong. I'm 3728 Hubble, Ward 2. And I just want to say to you, Mayor, you have done an awesome job, and I think you should definitely take a good long vacation and make sure you get yourself a good sunscreen so you won't be able to have no skin cancer while you're taking a good retirement vacation. And make sure you rock it on for as a climate ambassador. And I'm also want to make sure that y'all make sure to vote for make sure that I'm supporting the franchise fees so DART buses will be able to keep running. So when 2025 to 2026 come for the fiscal cliff, we want to make sure that we won't have no fiscal cliff, because transit is the answer and DART is the answer too as part of transit. So make sure that make sure that you approve of it, so globally we won't be in the same situation like across the nation and around the world. So you make sure to approve of it, and make sure, remember, transit is the answer and DART is part of the transit. So you better make sure to approve of it, or otherwise there's going to be some thunderous loud words for why you didn't go ahead and do it. So make sure you be well prepared for it, because they'll be watching everyone across here in Des Moines. So that's all I have to say. And thanks for the memories, like Bob Hope says for you, and good luck for your retirement.
Let's move on to Monica Owazarski.
Good evening, Council. I am a 10-year resident of Ward 1, and I'm here tonight to really just express how concerning it is to hear of the potential cuts to DART. I live in a ward that crucially needs public transit for many of my neighbors and citizens to get around town. Do you know what happens if you have a seizure in the state of Iowa? You legally cannot drive any vehicles for 6 months. I have a family member and a close friend who's had a seizure in the last 2 years. You legally cannot drive any vehicle, period. My mother had to climb over snowbanks to get to work every morning. She had to walk 13 blocks to get to a bus stop. And even then, she was calling Ubers. I say that to illustrate, as it stands, it's not funded properly. As it stands, the infrastructure is not adequate for our citizens to utilize this bus system. And I was at the listening session this past Tuesday, and, I'll echo what I said to both Connie and Scott at that meeting. It is incredibly concerning that there seems to be no momentum, no movement, really no concern for the people struggling the most in our city, for the most vulnerable in our city, and for the most marginalized. I see no real funding initiatives going to our homeless neighbors. There are no real funding initiatives there's a sobering center that really does not very much for our mental health care system here in Des Moines. I want to say to you all, budgets are a moral statement. And when you put parking garages and business development ahead of the most vulnerable people in our city, it's a clear statement. And it's very indicative of what this council stands for. And I just want to reiterate, Connie said in the listening session that when she was a child, she had to walk to school. But I also want to make clear that there is no public transportation or busing for any Des Moines public school preschoolers. I think we should do better by our preschoolers.
Adam Callanan.
Hello, my name is Adam Callanan. I live in Ward 3. I'll reiterate my demand to make these meetings accessible to everyone with virtual access. It's past time to make that happen. Also reiterating what other people have said, we need to listen to the people and fund DART. At a time when the city wants more workers to come and work downtown and more people to come downtown generally, it's abhorrent and backwards to cut bus services at that same time. I actually didn't have a car for almost 2 years at the start of the pandemic because I didn't really need to go anywhere other than Des Moines while the pandemic was everywhere. And I was able to rely on DART because I'm lucky enough that I live near DART Central, but I'm sure that current services elsewhere are not there and need to be expanded, definitely not cut. I also wanted to talk about that 3 hours before this meeting. I read the agendas when they come out over the weekend, usually on Thursday if I can. But 3 hours before this meeting, the city quietly added an extra item to the city council to thank county for his service and make him a climate ambassador. I don't know what a climate ambassador is. It wasn't really detailed in there. I don't know if it means we're still going to be paying for trips to send county internationally for stuff about climate. But that's something that should have been made clear before the vote happened, and it just has not been. I also wanted to offer an alternative resolution, which I'll read part of now. A resolution recognizing the failure and corruption of Mayor Frank County on behalf of the residents of the city of Des Moines. Whereas Frank County preaches nonpartisanship while publicly while privately cutting deals to benefit Republican donors. Whereas county officiated the arrest of silent protesters in City Hall. Whereas county brought in private security checkpoints for city council meetings because he's afraid of the residents he represents. Whereas county, please don't interrupt me. Whereas county passed many rule changes to the city council, blocking public comment on agenda items and breaking a tradition of open public comment on Des Moines in retaliation for critical speech. Whereas county oversaw and encouraged DMPD's violent response to protests in 2020. Whereas county ignored calls from the Democratic mayors of the U.S. to protect abortion rights locally. Whereas county oversaw the expulsion of the first black woman elected to city council in decades. Whereas county refused to fund adequate homeless shelters, contributing to the deaths of multiple houseless neighbors. Whereas county oversaw the failure to fund DART. Thank you.
Lou Hellmeyer.
Hello, my name is Lou and I live in Ward 1. I was previously a statistic of being a houseless veteran. I find it very symbolic of today's ineffectual liberal ruling class of status quo council members to highlight today being National Houseless Persons Memorial Day while doing nothing to actually address these issues. If the solutions that you have been presenting and implementing only extend an issue, then they are not solutions. Only things you say you are doing to address the guilt that you have for maintaining and fostering this issue only further. We have a sea of nonprofits trying to do the work of our municipality, while you sit upon these seats laughing and patting yourselves on the back while saving money. Are we as citizens not worth being invested in? Or is it only multinational corporations, an occupying police force, and the bourgeoisie that deserve the investment? According to your own homeless policy advisor, hired onto the city staff only just this year, we rely a lot on our nonprofit agencies that have more expertise and try to do what we can to help them out. Try to do what we can. But remember, we always have more money to throw away on a new municipal building housing the occupying forces who are rewarded even after they err upon our civil liberties. We see where your priorities lie, not in the increasing quality of life for those among us facing the hardest obstacles, but in keeping us down. After all, nothing says love of the people as funding the ones pushing them to the ground, destroying their homes, stealing, seizing their possessions, and forcing countless settlement payments. Systemic issues demand radical change. A single spark can spark a prairie fire.
Cassandra Monroe.
Hello, my name is Cassandra Monroe. I live and work in Ward 3, and I've arrived to this meeting using DART bus number 3 and then number 4. I'm here to share my story as a bus rider and how funding and route cuts will affect me and the community I ride with. I first expressed interest in our public transportation system when weighing the cost of returning to college as an adult while maintaining a job full-time. It's not easy. So what started as a way to save money while I went to school turned into a complete lifestyle change where I could use our public transport system to get to school, work, meet up with friends, go grocery shopping, and attend my doctor's appointments at the Veterans Hospital. There's so much more I want to say. I only have 2 minutes. Our system supports so many people like me, people who can't be here tonight because they're busy catching their bus or going to work. I see how helpful the bus routes are every single day to children, their parents, students, people trying to live regular lives like all of us. Driving is a privilege. It's not cheap to be able to maintain driving a car, right? And then, I'm nervous, but we're all just people here, right? Mm-hmm. So essentially, we're all just people trying to live our lives. And by cutting the funding, it's going to affect people like me. It's going to affect everyone I ride the bus with. I see every single day. It's going to affect the bus drivers. And we care about the climate, right? We care about houseless population, right? Our bus system also provides heating centers and cooling centers in the summer and winter for houseless population. Basically, I haven't not driven my car since December 2022, thanks to our bus system.
Denver Foot.
Hey y'all, Denver Foot, they, them, Ward 1, Drake neighborhood. I wrote something down for the first time in my life. We are here to demand DART continues at the current service level. Scott Sanders has recently come out in an interview blaming DART for this. The truth is that COVID relief funds are ending and the city of Des Moines will be responsible for almost 50% of funding for DART services. DART is essential to houseless folks for rides to cooling and heating centers. Just 2 years ago, a houseless man froze to death in a porta potty. That is not a death anyone deserves. As someone who has immense trauma from the police, I rely on DART to get to my job when my PTSD is at its peak and I cannot drive. Last year, I even moved to the Drake neighborhood to be closer to Line 3. It is insulting to someone who relies on DART, to houseless folks, to service workers and immigrant communities, that the city is willing to go into debt spending $56 million on a new police department. The nationwide building is all offices and will need extensive work to house police officers, costing more money. Des Moines is a rare city that does not take taxes from vehicle registrations or car rentals to help fund transit. DART's major expense is salaries. If there is a cut in services, it will cause many workers to lose jobs, workers that have families, children, and bills. As someone who is a renter, Medicaid recipient, and lives paycheck to paycheck, I have no issue paying extra on my energy bill if it means folks can get to work. Thank you.
Giada Morrissey.
Hi, Council. It's funny that you honored Homeless Persons Memorial Day as you continue to criminalize homelessness in the city and avoid the root cause of the issue. Within the last 2 weeks, I saw DMPD advancing on an encampment, displacing people trying to survive in a city that couldn't care less about them. Every houseless resident that dies from exposure in Des Moines is more blood on your hands. It is 27 degrees outside and dropping right now, and there are 0 overnight warming centers open in Des Moines. 0. Not to talk about DART. I worked at DART for 2.5 years, first as an intern, then as a full-time staff member. I know the ins and the outs of the system and the agency. I know it can be so much more if it is properly funded. Like Monica said, as it stands, we don't do enough for transit. DART is not running at its full capacity because it does not have the funding to do so. Every DART bus stop should have a bench, a shelter, and a light source. I watched and led trainings for groups of people using DART for the first time when I worked there, including refugees and people re-entering society after incarceration. Those people who may not have the time to attend meetings like this to beg you to save the transit that they rely on. I watched my colleagues at DART walk on eggshells around commission members, wanting to make sure that no member community felt excluded or less important. I don't work there anymore, so I can say what they couldn't. Des Moines is what really matters in transit. No offense to West Des Moines or Altoona or Windsor Heights. Without Des Moines, there would not be DART. Without Des Moines, there would not be a DART Central Station. I know that transit is important to you. I know that it has an impact on your lives. Carl, you were key in adding bike racks to all DART buses. Will you stand for transit now when it needs you? Josh, your children may not rely on transit, but their classmates certainly do. Will you stand for the classmates of your children? Connie, you pride yourself in the businesses you own at the Iowa State Fair. In 2019, DART carried 250,000 people to the fair.
Michaelyn Menko.
Michaela Minkle.
Okay, thank you. Tacita Barfoot.
She emailed right before the meeting she wouldn't be able to make.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to receive and file items
61 A through J.
Been moved and seconded. Let's vote to receive and file all the comments.
7 yes.
I want to thank all of our citizens for attending this meeting and giving us your thoughts and your input. It's important to us. And I wish you all the best. And with that, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.